Jesus calms the storm. Have you ever felt scared during a thunderstorm? Maybe the rain was loud, the wind was strong, and you just wanted someone to hold your hand and say, "It's going to be okay." A long time ago, Jesus and his friends were out on a big lake. They were in a small boat, sailing across the water, when something very scary happened. A huge storm came out of nowhere. The waves grew tall, the wind howled, and the boat rocked wildly. Everyone was afraid, except Jesus. Why wasn't he afraid? And what did he do when the storm got worse? This is the true story of how Jesus calmed the wind, stopped the waves, and reminded his friends and dudes that no matter how big our storm is, he is always bigger. So snuggle in, open your heart, and get ready for a story full of adventure, love, and peace. Let's begin. It had been a long, busy day. Jesus had been teaching crowds of people near the big, beautiful Sea of Galilee. So many people had come to hear him. They stood in the sunshine, listening closely as Jesus told stories about seeds, farmers, and God's love. Jesus stood in a little boat just off the shore, so everyone could see and hear him. His 12 disciples were nearby, helping and watching. As the sun began to go down, the sky turned orange and pink. Jesus looked at his friends and said, "Let's go to the other side of the lake." So they helped Jesus into the boat and pushed off from the shore. Some other little boats followed too, floating behind them. Jesus was very tired. He had worked hard teaching all day. The stars started to twinkle in the sky. The sea was peaceful, so he found a soft cushion in the back of the boat, lay down, and closed his eyes. While Jesus slept, his friends rowed the boat gently across the calm, quiet water. The disciples talked quietly as they sailed. Some looked up at the stars, others hummed little songs. Everything felt still and safe. But far away, up in the hills, the wind began to blow. It started as a soft breeze. Then it got stronger. The sky grew dark, the stars disappeared. The waves began to rise, splashing against the boat. Then boom. A loud clap of thunder echoed across the sea. A storm had come. The wind whooshed louder and louder. The waves crashed harder and harder. Splash water spilled into the boat. Whoosh, the boat rocked from side to side. The disciples were scared. Peter held on to the side of the boat. John tried to scoop water out with his hands. James shouted, "We're going to sink." The storm was big, loud, and wild, and Jesus was still sleeping. How could he sleep through such a loud storm? The disciples ran to the back of the boat where Jesus was resting on his cushion. They shook him gently and cried out, "Jesus, teacher, wake up. Don't you care that we're going to drown?" Jesus slowly opened his eyes. He stood up in the boat. The wind was blowing hard. The waves were crashing. The boat was shaking. Jesus was calm. He lifted his hand and said loudly, "Peace, be still." Right away, the wind stopped. The waves settled. The sea became quiet and smooth. Just like that, the storm was gone. The storm was over. The sea was quiet again. The wind had stopped blowing. The waves were soft like a gentle hug. All around the boat, there was peace. No one said a word at first. The disciples looked at the water, then at each other, and at Jesus. Their hearts were still thumping. Their clothes were soaking wet. But inside, something felt even more surprising than the storm. They had just seen a miracle. Jesus had told the storm to stop and it listened. Peter's eyes were wide. Andrew's mouth was open. Little raindrops still rolled down John's nose, but he didn't even notice. Jesus turned and looked at his friends with kindness in his eyes. He asked them, "Why are you so afraid? Don't you have faith yet?" The disciples felt a little quiet inside. They didn't know what to say. They had seen Jesus do many amazing things. He had healed people who were sick. He had made blind people see. It made sad hearts happy again. But this was different. The storm didn't just go around Jesus. It obeyed him. The wind listened. The waves listened. Even the sky listened. The disciples whispered to one another, "Who is this man? Even the wind and the sea obey him." And though they had followed Jesus for a while, they now saw him with new eyes. Not just as a good teacher, not just as a kind friend, but as someone who had the power of God himself. Jesus smiled gently and sat back down. The boat drifted peacefully over the calm water. The stars peeked out again. The moon lit a silver path across the sea. The journey continued, but the disciples were different now. They weren't just riding in a boat with a teacher. They were sailing with the Son of God, and they would never forget the day the storm heard his voice. The day Jesus said, "Peace, be still," and the storm obeyed. The sea was calm again. The boat floated gently under the stars, and the disciples sat quietly, thinking about everything that had just happened. They still felt amazed. They had been so scared. The storm was big and loud and strong. But Jesus was even bigger, even louder, even stronger. He didn't shout at the wind. He didn't panic or run away. He simply stood up and said, "Peace, be still." And the storm listened. The disciples began to understand something very special. When they were scared, Jesus was with them. When they didn't know what to do, Jesus was with them. When everything felt out of control, Jesus was still in control, and he still is. Even today, Jesus is with us when we feel afraid. Might not be on a boat in a stormy sea, but sometimes it feels like a storm inside our hearts. Maybe we feel nervous about school, feel lonely when our friends forget us. We feel sad when someone we love is sick. We feel scared when things change too fast. But just like he did on that boat, Jesus says to us too, "Peace, be still." He doesn't promise that we'll never face storms, but he does promise to be with us through every single one. A prayer for stormy days. Dear Jesus, sometimes I feel scared, like the disciples did in the storm. Help me remember that you are always with me. Even when I can't see you, you are near. Even when I don't understand, you are in control. Speak peace to my heart when I'm afraid. Help me trust you more every day. Thank you for being my forever friend. In your name, amen. The storm came. The waves crashed. The wind roared. But Jesus was there, and with just 3 little words, "Peace, be still," everything changed. The disciples learned something very important that night. Even when the world feels scary, even when we don't know what to do, Jesus is with us. He's in the boat with us. He doesn't always stop every storm right away, but he always stays close. He always listens, and he always brings peace to hearts that trust him. So the next time you feel afraid, remember, you can talk to Jesus. You can pray, and you can trust that the same one who calmed the wind and waves can calm your heart too, because no storm is stronger than his love.